Hi, James. Strange, it doesn't show up the microphone for you at all. Do you have the audio off totally? Okay, it seems to be 10 o'clock. So shall we start, James?
Yes. Good morning. Yeah, let's make a start. I see from some chat here that there seems to be a timetable question.
Looks like it's gonna show it started at 9 o'clock. Huh?
Yes.
Strange. This is very strange.
Okay. So clearly there is an error somewhere in the system. So I think that we should clarify that the session is a single session from 10 till 12.
Yeah.
And we'll have a look at this timetable in case others are picking it up at a later stage. But certainly my timetable only shows 10 to 12. Are these people who see 9 till 10? Are they on any particular program? Are they on the industrial management program?
Oh, yes, there's one from 9 to 10, second from 10 to 12. Oh, okay. Yeah, I will post a message on OMA to all students that this will be always 10 to 12 on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Yeah, something seems to be a little bit messed up here. Well, at least I am, but but just a little. Okay. Yeah, I will just mark it somewhere that to post the message. But James, would you? Okay. Was there something else? I just noticed the returning of the assignment. The most important assignment one, I mean, most important place to return is the. Let me share you that one page. Okay, where's the share screen? Screen to share. Most importantly, you should return the video to introductory video, and there are files, and in here if it's a external made for company, then you would return the video, upload the video to company projects. And if it's your own idea, then actually you return it to simulated projects. And if you haven't returned those yet, do it as soon as possible, preferably today, since basically the group forming has already started. And as instructed on the posts of the introductory video, you can start discussing, for example, there about making up a project team yourself. Okay, so since I was looking at the assignments, there's and was a little bit worried since there was 0 returned, but on the turned in. Okay, 28 or 58 turned in. There's a turned in button on your assignment. It doesn't matter what you return there. Some of you actually have returned the link to the video. Since in any case, I will take a look at the who has returned the video on introductory video as instructed on that assignment. Sorry about that. You need to actually upload it on the different place, since on that box, return box, you cannot return video files since they are too big. It must be on that files section, which is basically running on the top of SharePoint. So, but anyways, when you have done it, please also, you can return just empty or just right there done, then you are done with that, and it looks better in here. I see how many of you have returned it. Okay, the same way I will also basically review the ideas. On the review of the ideas, see student view, there most importantly mark your ranking on this form. Otherwise, I need to take every single one of your returns. That's also okay to rank them on the return box, but I have to then take those and start doing table myself. And this when we are using the form, then basically I can start analyzing directly that Excel sheet. So that's the reason why I asked you to return those using this form. There's a link. Okay. Yeah. That's all from my side. So any questions? Okay. Good. Link to assignment for work. Okay. The assignment 2, you can return it only once. That's one restriction there. So when you have actually filled something on the form 1, you can view what you have returned earlier, but you cannot change it anymore. I made it just for fun. A single-use link. Okay, good. James, will you start?
Yes, I'll make a start. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and I'll be sharing some slides regarding today's materials. Can you see, Antti, can you reply to me, please? Can you see that review progress shared screen?
Yep.
You can. Okay. So let's make a start on today's materials, reviewing the progress. Well, Antti's done some of that now, looking at the assignment type materials, and it tells us what we covered last week, and any questions on those should be pretty clear now. Hopefully you have these answers. So today we have again a teaching theme, 2 particular themes. One of them is around managing project. This is skills and ideas and tips and tools. And the other one is, again, skills, ideas, tips and tools around team working. Project management, planning, reporting and tools. We have another session on project management, on budgeting and other issues a little bit later next week. So I'm going to do some slides on these 2 themes. My screen is sort of somewhat filled with these slides. So Antti, if you can sort of look out if you see any questions coming up in the chat. But I would encourage anyone who has a question to just unmute and interrupt. Do it that way is fine. It's fine with me. So let's have a look at these 2 areas of teaching to start off. Project management. So our first session on project management is around planning, reporting type tools. And I think that some of you, at least, may have done some of this sort of project management 101 type stuff in earlier courses, perhaps going a couple of years back. So this might be a bit of a reminder to you, or for some of you it might be fairly new types of material. There are hundreds of books on this. It's a whole discipline and a whole profession. Some of you may even have that as part of your work in your workplace if you're at that sort of level in the organization. So there's many books on this. Here's the library MedCat page. I put project planning in, and you get masses of books here. Some of them as ebooks and whatever. We don't require that you go into this book literature. We're just going to give you some skills, tips, and ideas. Project planning templates. There are masses of templates available as well. Many templates. Gives you the themes and the ideas of what is needed in a project plan. Lots of them available online. We're not going in to evaluate these and give our sort of expertise on what are good ones and whatever, but we're just going to provide you with some simple tools. And it's not surprising really that there are some principal headings that all these templates have. 5, 6, 8 headings which cover all of them. And we'll have a look at some of these headings so that you yourself can do your own project plan, which is one of your tasks. So let's have a look at some of these themes in the templates. As I said, there's plenty of books. If you have the opportunity to do an option course on project planning, I think it's a good choice. It's a really useful skill to have in organizations in work life. So if there's options available to you, I would highly recommend it for ICT and industrial management type professions. Sorry, going too fast here. That's my mouse is a bit set sensitive. Project management, planning, reporting here. So the template that we have, in inverted commas, stolen or borrowed is one from what used to be called TECES, now formed together into one unit, which is Business Finland. They have a simple template that is useful to us, and if we look at some of the headings of those themes, there's a copy in the materials folder of in the Teams. If we look at these headings and themes, we can get an idea of simply filling in the gaps type approach to doing this. Let me click over. The sort of themes that there are here. Okay, there's obviously a general description of the project. Think, as we said last time, about these two particular issues. So what is the challenge? What is the problem? And therefore, what is the objective? The second element that you'll find common in these templates and is in the Business Finland template, tasks. Then we go on to resources, timetable, and costs, various headings. Let me just bring this one up and have a review of it. So just give me a moment to bring this up for a second. I'll put myself on mute in case I swear while I'm trying to get this stuff. Just there. How do I download it? Can you see, Antti, can you see that project plan?
We have audio and we have the shared screen.
Right, so you can see the TechES, the Business Finland screen. You can see that, can you?
There's Business Finland project plan template open in your Word.
Have you got it?
Yeah, I can see it. Yes.
Okay. So this is the project. This is the project template, which is produced by TechES or Business Finland, with these various headings. So the project name is the first section, pretty obvious. So you can use this and put in your name in here. And here underneath are some of the 5 or 6 points that I mentioned. And in red are some remarks from Antti and from me, so that you can complete this document. So the first element in here is the general description. Okay, summarize what are the goals of the project, what's being done in the project. And remember from session 1, state in a few lines what is the challenge or the problem, and therefore what is the objective, what is the goal of the project. So this is fairly simple. Later, this is transferable sort of language that you can put into your project report. It's a similar transferable text to your project report when you have to write that up. So part 1 here. Part 2, project tasks, right? So the element in blue here is the TechES language. Describe the project task, resources, and amount of work and costs. Okay, so we'll have a look next week at the budgeting element of work costs and those sorts of things. We'll give you some advice on that. But in terms of these tasks, I think one way to look at this is to think about this in terms of task 1, task 2, or task 3, which are the different disciplinary type tasks that you're going to undertake. So if we use our widget example, there's the task which is the R&D, or the task which is the manufacturing. Another task then might be the supply chain elements of it, or the other task might be the marketing element. So here it's quite easy to split this project into different sort of tasks, things that need to be done, if you like. So use that to describe what needs to be done. Here, the persons, who are the people involved, and how much work it's going to take. Task 1, task 2, task 3, task N, it goes down. Suggestions in terms of the amount of hours it's going to take. Well, I think that you can put in some sort of estimate on that. Just think about this as a 10-credit course and make some simple estimations about the amount of work that is needed for each task. I think I'd like you to do it just as an exercise. So you're thinking about it, but we're not going to evaluate the exact number of hours. It's a matter of looking at the document and completing it in a realistic sense, really. So yes, that's that. That's one. And summary of the resources. What resources are needed, and in terms of the TechES template, then if you like, they have internal and external type of resources. Frequently on the types of projects that people are using this template for, they're having to use subcontractors, outsourced services, and providing details of that. I have some doubts that you'll need to do anything in that section. So job descriptions. Fourth element that you'll see in this template and common in other templates as well is a timetable. This particular timetable that they've got here is the duration of the project, so from start to finish, if you like. But we also would like to see something in terms of the timeline of and we're going to do something in our materials today about project timelines using what's called Gantt charts. I'll come to that in a few minutes. So the duration of the course is the timetabled thing, but we'll also look at the timeline for individual tasks. Hopefully that'll become a bit clearer to you in a few moments when we have a look at this Gantt materials. And finally, the fifth element in this particular template are the costs. I mean, we don't have a budget for your particular programs, but we would after we've covered these materials next week, at least expect you to put in some sort of estimate of what a cost could be in a project. Let me just close this one down. You can see this in the resources in the Teams folder. Let me take that away and come back to sharing my my PowerPoint slides. Yes, back to Antti. Can you see that one? Back to the slides. Antti?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So that is a summary of those: the general description, the tasks, the resources, the timeline, and the costs. And this is a good template that you can use on your projects. Just to move a little bit forward on that, if you look at other projects elsewhere, other templates elsewhere, I should say, frequently you find in other templates these additional themes. The project scope, that's not particularly mentioned in the TechES template. So the project scope, often a project is a part of a much larger project. So describing the scope is something that you'll see quite often. You don't necessarily have to do it, but if the scope of the project is important, you can mention that as well. If you're doing a company project, which is part of a much bigger one, that might be interesting to describe, for example. But what I want to do here is to give you a sense that for future project planning, there are these additional elements that you frequently find in these templates. So scope is one of them. Project risk. Most templates have something about risk, recognizing the risks and how are they handled. We don't see that directly in the TechES template, but that's not a particular problem. But be aware that when you're doing your project planning in future life, that frequently you'll have to consider this issue of risk and also of quality. What are the quality checks? What are the criteria? What is the approach? You'll see that in other templates as well. What are the ways that the project, the quality issues are being maintained and that sort of thing. And the final one that you'll see also on other templates quite often is this element of communication. Who are the different stakeholders? You see a little bit of the element of that in the TechES one, but who are the stakeholders and what are the communication channels between them is frequently seen in these project templates. If you were to go to a project planning book, for example, one of those library books, you'll find those TechES headings, and you'll probably find a number of these headings as well. Bear these in mind, but we don't expect you to have to answer all these questions. So in that sense, we have the idea of a document which one can use as a general descriptive project planning document. And that's what we want to try and achieve with you. Now, that's about as much as we want to sort of talk about in terms of these themes that you get in templates. Let's move forward then to the next session of the next section of this planning, which is particularly about how do you then describe project time and the time element of the plan. And here a Gantt chart is the way to set things out. Perhaps many of you have heard of the word Gantt charts, but some of you perhaps not, but you'll all know what they are because you've all seen them. So this could be the chart that you know, but you've not really seen the label before. A Gantt chart is a plan where you have the workflow visualized in terms of time and tasked activities. Okay, sometimes it has the responsible person, sometimes it has some financial info in it, but not always. Easiest way is just to go into Google and look in the images and look at Gantt charts. Let me just share one with you now, and you'll see straight away. This is the one that I've from Project Engineer, taken from the internet and sourced down here. Let me just show you this particular Gantt chart, and I'm sure that you'll recognize it straight away. Antti, again, if you could tell me whether you can see that?
Yep.
You can. So, yeah, so this is a chart, as I said, that most of you will recognize straight away. It's called a Gantt chart, invented at the beginning of the 20th century by Mr. Gantt, Henry Gantt, I think, if I remember, but anyway. And we have time on one axis going along here and along the top. And then we have activities coming down the side, and those activities usually have a main heading and then the sub-themes within that heading. We can see here preliminary engineering, design, construction, post-construction. In this particular example, 1, 2, 3, 4 major topics, each with their sub-themes. And then we have a timeline on there of when they are going to be done. In this particular example, there's a resource column. Frequently, that means the individual who's in charge, for example, who is responsible. And in this particular one, they also have a status column. That gets updated in terms of perhaps percentages of completeness, so that there's an immediate visualization of not only the plan, but how things are actually taking place. Gantt charts can become really quite complicated and quite in depth, and my view is that destroys the purpose. You know, a Gantt chart should be an easy visualization for people in the project to see what are the main tasks and what are the sub-themes, and have a quick overview of what is going on. And certainly you see very complicated ones, which obviously bring utility and usefulness to the project. But the simpler the better for everyday people who are working in the team, I think. So don't over-engineer the Gantt chart is my general advice, so that everybody in one's working team, whether it's in this project, but I'm talking about also in real work life, try and get a balance between depth and visualization and utility. So Gantt charts then are the time element of the planning in a simple way. As I said, that this is probably something that many of you have used or at least have seen, so shouldn't be too new to you. Let me come back to my slides now for a moment. Okay, so back to the slides again. Gantt charts for time, and a general project plan for description of the project and the resourcing and the tasks at hand and those sorts of things. This is what we want you to do. This is what we want you to complete when your project is underway. So you'll see that task as a requirement a little bit later, but keeping it reasonably basic and straightforward. Right. So first session. Right, the first element of the session, we're talking about project plans, writing a project plan, and doing the timing. Let's take a short interlude for questions. Any questions on this particular element? Any chat there, Antti, on the chat questions, or?
No. There was just a question about the assignment to the sheet, or that form didn't open for some students. But no questions this far. So either they are happy or asleep.
The former, of course. The former, of course. Okay, so yes, in our teaching sessions, as I said, we're not sort of evaluating all these in great depth. We're just trying to give you some supporting materials for this particular project, and also some useful ideas for work life as well thereafter. So. In terms of the project planning, at least at this stage, those are the two themes. And next time, Antti will do some stuff on project planning number 2, which is on budgeting and these some elements. That'll be next week. I want to now go on to another session, part 2 of this teaching, which is about teams. and about teams and team working. Again, for helping you with this particular project, but also to have an understanding of teams in work life, when you yourself perhaps also responsible for either forming teams or working in teams and those sorts of things. So let's move forward onto this section.
Actually, I had two questions.
Okay, please.
How does the Gantt chart show those dependencies? Allegedly. I mean, allegedly it is showing somehow the project, like that somehow the work is dependent on other work. I looked at Wikipedia.
Right. So tell me what you mean now.
Modern Gantt chart shows the dependency relationships between activities. So how is it show the dependencies?
Well, let's go up to this. Let's go up to this this Gantt chart. The simple example. Let me go back to sharing that one again.
And I guess the second question was, should the Gantt chart be updated when the task is in progress itself? So should it be colored with some different color if the task is like 3/4 complete or something like that?
Right. So let's look. So first of all, you have activities here on the hand side, okay, and then these sub elements of the project are put down here. So preliminary engineering, and in this particular example, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 headings. At the beginning, so the resources are there. You can see from the timeline, and common sense also tells you that a project progresses, and that there are sort of prerequisites to the next stage. So that is one element of dependencies. That the design element is dependent on the completion of the earlier activities. So it's shown in that particular line. If we're talking about a simple visualized Gantt chart, there are some very complex ones with all sorts of different workflows and work processes in there, which are attached to Gantt charts. But in this simple element, the projects continue. One is dependent on the completion of the other. Does that partly, at least, answer your question?
Yeah. I thought to myself also that if the tasks are in parallel, like the hydraulics and the hydrology, then they could be partially done in parallel as long as there is enough workers to do it.
Of course, in this particular example, we don't know what hydrology actually means for this project. I mean, we understand the word, and we know hydraulics. We know what the word is. But in this plan, there is an element of parallel going on here. And in that project, one might be dependent on the other, or they could be two slightly independent tasks where one team can get on with one piece and the other team can get on with another piece without it being dependent on the other. If one thinks of something like a house renovation, there's the same. Part of the work is dependent on the other part of the work, but some of the work is independent. And to what extent they work in parallel, or one follows the other, or partly follows the other, depends on each particular task at hand. But I think it's a good point, but here there are one follows the other, and here there are parallel works, or there is a hybrid halfway, where there's a parallel, but you need at least some part of the work completed already. So that's the sort of dependencies can be shown in this visualized form. The resources are the other element of who is responsible. But then you talked about status, about how the project is going, and this is done in multiple ways. Here it's rather simple. That there is a column in here with status where one could use, for example, percentages, and using some sort of date. So 1st of September. Site visits, file review, and data. Well, actually, it's April, wasn't it? April 2015. So on a certain date, like the 11th of April 2015, that could be filled in as 100% complete. It might also say only 75% complete. And then using some people then, depending on the system that you've got, some people then will have the original date in blue, and then will have, for example, an extra 3 weeks added on in yellow, which means that it's added time or something like that. So there's multiple ways that these changes in time and completion and reporting of that is done. Does that respond?
Good answer.
Thank you. I think that it's a very good question, and you know that I've tried to give an answer, but it depends on how the complexity of the challenge and of the project. Even the most complex projects, it's best to try and still keep the visualization simple, and color coding of saying the original timeline, and maybe in a particular project they have a buffer timeline, and then they have overtime or something like that, using different color schemes is the way to do it. But anyway, so dependencies and timeline are 2 issues which are important within this Gantt when you're looking at your projects, and those are some general words on how it can be dealt with. Hopefully, at least helpful at this stage. If it gets more complicated than that, one has to think of looking at a more detailed book on project management timelines. Okay, so let's move forward on this team working. Okay, so these elements that I want to discuss with you, or to present to you, why team working? So this is a collection of ideas and challenges from all sorts of different authors that are being pulled together. Quite simple stuff, really, but just to give a sense of why team working. That'll just take a very short time. Forming teams or making teams work. A model from Tuckman, which is fairly well known, and you can look at that model and consider how what stage your own team is. It's a sort of stage model, 4/5 stages of team working. An element here on roles in teams from a British management consultant called Belbin, who produced this how an effective team consists of different sorts of roles. So I'll show you a little bit on that as well. Useful for the future, but also some transferability into your project as well. And also a couple of articles from Harvard Business Review and from Forbes on virtual teams. I've just pulled some points together here. So let's have a look at these team working related issues for the next short while or so. So very common sense stuff here, really, but well worth just having an awareness of this. Team working has become the sort of the way that work gets done these days in offices. So in my earlier days of working in business, tasks were very individually completed, and you weren't aware that you were in one particular team given a task or something like that. It was sort of a hodgepodge of many individuals, and only the managers really had a sense of who was doing what and then bringing it all together. And then over, I would say, the last 20 years or so, this sort of team working type approach where people know exactly which team they're in and what is the team task has become a much more prevalent approach to working life and working practice. So we all have to work this way now, and there are these benefits, but there are also some challenges, and I want to talk a little bit about the challenges as well. Why team working is difficult, and I'm going to go over there. So working in teams, simple list of things which are probably common sense. Bring together diverse skills, so that different people with different skills coming into the team, and obviously then getting multiple thoughts through, or multiple ideas and skills through there. The second element on there is that by being in a team, you try and get contributions from everybody. So it's not independent work and you don't know what others are doing. And this includes some sort of hierarchy level. It's a place where all people in the hierarchy can put their contribution in, instead of being a sort of unknown name working on one particular part of the project. You get contributions from all sitting around the table, or however one is doing one's teamwork. Some well-being related things. It gives a sense of social contact, mutual motivation, morale and spirit. Quite important these days. Organizations seeking, or at least stating, that they're trying to make sure that people are happy in their work, these sorts of things. So social contact, mutual motivation, morale, spirit are sort of interlinked type of ideas. And then one can get a sense of identity. I'm part of this group and that team, and also some security. Linked to that then, of course, you can share the workload, try and find the best approach through sharing and distributing, and frequently in a self-managed way. So the team can share the workload instead of the hierarchical boss imposing workloads. So here is an element of understanding who's going to do what and sharing stuff. We then come to some elements here about creativity and innovation. And if you read papers, articles about team working, this tends to come out as the one issue. that teamwork is the way to promote creativity, innovation, new ideas, breaking down old ways of doing things and finding new, innovative approaches, whether it be to the way that work gets done, or whether it actually is to creating something physical and new, a new piece of software or something like that. So this is an environment where these discussions and negotiations can take place, creativity can bloom, innovation, and also is a place where one is more likely to be able to sort of experiment with ideas and test ideas. Very challenging to do these sorts of things when one is working as an individual. If you bring those things together, those sort of 3 or 4 elements together, you get this notion of upscaling. Upscaling is where the sum of the parts is able to do much more than everybody at their individual level. It's then bringing not just each individual's general level of experience and skills to the table, but by bringing everything together, you can move sort of above and beyond, if you like. The whole is bigger than the parts, is the sort of sense of the common language that we use, at least in English. Reduced risks by doing this. People working individually, of course it depends on the character, but people working individually are less likely to try something new and be a risk taker. But teams provide an environment where they can take a little bit of risk, because there's a shared environment in which to discuss ideas. So actually, by taking risk, you can reduce risk, which sounds a bit counterintuitive. And bringing in this last element, that you can get creativity, innovation, and better productivity, and all these other elements through competition. 2 elements of competition: the within element of competition, where people within the team want to be a little bit competitive and to sort of show their skills, show their worth, show their value, and they want to sort of be a little bit the best. I have a young son who's 12, and there's competition within the classroom. Who's doing the best, or who's doing this, and then there's competition with other teams. So how is his class doing compared to others? So we're better at this, or we're doing better than that. Similar thing in sports as well, I can say. So this element of competition is helpful as well. Quite general type stuff, really, but this is the sort of synthesis of materials that are written about why working in teams is useful to organizations. But it's not all sort of the benefits. Yeah, it's not all working to one's benefit. So any of us who've worked in teams will see these challenges as well. Free riding, otherwise known as social loafing. Loafing is hanging around and not doing anything in English. Probably, maybe many of you know the words, but social loafing or free riding. So not pulling one's load. So a team is a place where people can hide, and so that's a bit of a challenge. So that is something that needs to be overcome, and I think probably, if we're all honest, from time to time we've all done some social loafing in some particular teams. Like maybe we've been given a task in a team that we didn't really want to do, maybe in the next team, we've decided that we'll pull our weight a little bit more because we didn't do so much last time, or vice versa. I did so much in the last team meeting that this time I'm not going to sort of like do so much. So it's hiding in the team. Social loafing or free riding is a bit of a challenge, something that has to be looked at. There's some other things. If you're in a team, you lose your individuality. And sometimes you lose personal empowerment. You know, if you're working on your own and you have your own project, you're personally empowered to be able to see that project through from start to fruition. And you have this sort of individual choice. I can make choices. When you're in a team, then to make the team work, you have to somehow give up an element of your individuality. So for all of us, that can be a challenge. And depending on the task at hand, it can be a bigger or a lesser challenge. So the challenge there actually is this loss of individuality, and that can be problematic. And somehow the team has to think about how to overcome this sort of loss or demotivating. So it's the demoting element that potentially can come here. Conformity and social pressure then is another problem. Excuse me. Social pressure and conformity means that when one has a strong view or an idea, that idea or social pressure within the team means that you're more likely to agree with what they say. The pressure from around suggests that this is how something should be done or the direction that should be taken. And as an individual, you might sort of be more likely to conform and say, yes. There are some very great social experiments, social psychology experiments on conformity from the 1960s. And if you're interested in those, you can see many of those online. But conformity, social pressure, linked a little bit to loss of individuality and whatever. Next one, of course, conflict is that people don't all like each other, and so how do you deal with conflict in the team? How do you overcome those sorts of different ideas? Strong characters who are a bit more determined and want to have their own way. So a team with utmost conflict is hardly a team at all. It's not going to achieve all these very generic type of beneficial ideas that we see in this previous slide. So conflict is a big issue in team working that somehow needs to be addressed. The opposite of conflict is cohesion. You want, of course, a team to be cohesive. Cohesive is like glue, sticking together. You want a team to be glued together and cohesive. A cohesive group works together. But an overly cohesive group, one which is so stuck together and all going down and doesn't think outside the box, or doesn't like conflict, or doesn't like new ideas. They want to all stick together in their way. If it's overly cohesive, you get what's called groupthink. You are not aware or have a closed mind to what are the problems. You're so hell-bent on being a group stuck together and avoiding conflict that you're not open to dissent or other conflicting ideas. There are some quite well-known cases around this notion of groupthink in team working, which some of you might know. One of them is this NASA Challenger disaster. Going back quite some time now, 1986. This is where the space shuttle Challenger was sent up, and after 2 or 3 minutes blew up. And what happened here is that there was an overly cohesive group. They didn't want conflict, they didn't want dissent. They wanted their records all to show that they were all in agreement. And those engineers who were present, who were certainly unsure about what was actions they should be taking, didn't express themselves. They didn't want conflict in the group, and there's a sort of fear, an overly cohesive group. So the problems with the space shuttle before blast off were actually known by some engineers, but because of this groupthink and all wanting to stick together and have a group without conflict, they sent it up, and then there was a mighty bang. Everyone lost their life on that particular thing. I put a little slide under here, or a little cartoon. We don't just want a bunch of yes men around here. This yes men idea that we have in Britain. And right, you said it, absolutely. I mean, these are all yes men. So this yes men idea, or yes people idea, is where people are too afraid to speak up for breaking up the group. So if we bring these different challenges together, how do you make a group work? So I've put a little slide in here that actually a group should be a place of tension. If you see the sort of image of a tug of war, but it's in balance. Both sides pulling, but it's in balance. One side is not winning over the other. So in a group, actually, you want people who fit the culture of the group, the objectives of the group, who share these different ideals, but you don't want everyone to be a clone. There has to be this individuality and this able to speak up. And so you need to conform on the one hand, but you need to be free to offer dissent. You have to be able to sort of feel able to say, well, I don't agree, and these are the reasons why. And so there's a balance with conformity on one side and dissent on the other. A good team actually has some conflict because of these different ideas that are being passed around. So it's not all closed and just going in one direction. It's having opposing views being put in, and some people getting a little bit upset by that and being disappointed that their idea is being pushed, suppressed down. So you want conflict, you want different ideas to be shared, but you don't want war. It doesn't work that way. You want the group to be cohesive. They have a sense of identity. We're a good group, but you don't want to be so stuck together that you get this sort of groupthink idea emerging through the sense of we've all got to do things in the same way, and I'm too fearful to express my view. So here is the benefits and the challenges of working in teams as the first part of this team working element. The second part of this team working element is to share this Tuckman phases or stages of team working. So this is about forming effective teams. Quite old material here, but it's very well known. It's sort of managers learn this in their managerial training, and if they do these things. So you'll hear them talking about these sorts of stages. So you as a manager or you as a member of a team, it's worthwhile knowing that these managers have these ideas. And we'll be able to see in the next slide, where I go into a little bit more detail about how this actually refers to your own team formation or teamwork for your project. So we have this model, which was called forming, storming, norming, performing. 4 stages originally, and then later Tuckman added this other stage, which he called adjoining. Adjoining means the end of the team, leaving the team, how it finishes. A team that completes its task and adjoins well means that people go away with a sense of accomplishment and are ready to start their next team project. But if they go away feeling sick about it, it's not a good way to then enter into the next team working exercise, either with the same team working members or others. But let's have a look at this forming, storming, norming, and performing type model. And I don't expect you that in your project to sort of report this back. But I think you can use this as a sort of a useful way of seeing how is your project moving. Well, here are the slides from, or the slide from these different stages in this table here. So forming, storming, norming, performing, and then the final one. So I would say that, for example, in your projects, now you've pitched your idea and you're moving on to this next stage of forming a group. Not all of these points will actually apply to you all the time, but these are the sort of general elements that take place in the forming element, or the forming stage or phase. Now, there's a dependence on the leader. Not necessarily the leader of the team. It could be the outside leader, the boss, who's telling you to form a team. So I suppose to a certain extent, you can say, well, you're forming your teams and there's a little bit of dependence on the leader. You could say there's some dependence on Antti and on me in the group forming stage, at least. The second element here is the responsibilities are unclear. When you're forming your team, who's going to do what and whatever is unclear, and you may not know each other. Interpersonal relationships have to develop at this particular stage. And at that time, usually in a team, the conformity is to the organization's norms. You look at the organization, but you don't create your own organization's norms and visions and ideas. Having each one of those in front of you when you're forming actually makes you actually think on where you can put your focus. Okay, so what we need to do is to clarify responsibilities here. Let's get this bit done. How are we going to get to know each other, our interpersonal relationships? Okay, what is our team spirit or our team norms or our team values? Let's try and bring those together. So this is the first element, the first phase in this Tuckman model. Very intuitive and common sense, but well worth having in mind when one thinks about starting your project or your team working. As you develop those ideas, then we come to the storming, like brainstorming, if you like. So at that stage, then the team members are looking at what is their role? what is their position? What is going on here? I can do this or I can do that. I'll show you another slide a little bit later, shortly anyway, on roles. What are the different roles one should have in a team? But here people are looking at the positions. I can do this, I can do that. This is my area of expertise. And that can have then some area of potential conflict. Well, I don't want to do this role, I want to do that role. So these are things you can bear in mind while you're storming and getting your team up in going. Resistance, you know, this is a part of building interpersonal relationships. These feed off each other, and there are still some uncertainties. Still don't really know what we're trying to achieve here. What's going on? So we've gone from forming to the storming. Very much the pre-stages, pre-stage 1 and pre-stage 2 of getting an effective team in place. Now we have the norming bit, the sort of more normal type activities. So the leader or the sort of the group or team sort of top person, or who is driving it. You might not call it a leader, but you always get a sense of some sort of dominant figure in a positive sense here. So the sort of leader emerges of who's taking a lead in this particular thing. And you agree and have consensus about what it is that you're trying to achieve. And so the team is coming together here. You know who the roles are, and you have a sort of fairly good cohesive group, and you know what your values or what are your standards, what are your rules. You want to try and move to this stage fairly quickly. Performing is the doing. It's fairly simple here. Everything remains clear. Everything is going okay. You have this shared vision. You know how to resolve your disagreements, and you progress. Don't forget that in this model, you know, it's not just an upward steps all the way. Sometimes you find some downward steps where you get some conflict and these sorts of things. And in the performing element here, the disagreements are resolved. You have an approach on how to do that. So that works through to achieving your goals at the end, the 1, 2, 3, 4 stage. And then later, Tuckman put in this 5th stage here regarding completing the tasks, a sense of achievement and moving forward. The idea here is that, particularly in the organizational contexts, that a successful task, a completed task, a sense of achievement is a good way to move into your next element of team working. If it's been an abject failure, you don't really have much inclination to either work with the same people or similar people, or to do any team working at all. So there is, in very simple terms, the Tuckman model, and I would suggest that you almost have that in front of you while your teams are being formed, looking on what are the responsibilities and these sorts of things. It's a good template again to think of how can we move into this performing element smoothly and have a shared understanding. Let me just stop share there and take any questions regarding those two elements, the benefits and the challenges of team working, and the forming to performing and adjoining model. Any questions? it's quiet.
Yeah, it was a loadful, I think so. But please feel free to ask questions or share some experiences.
Well, let me go then into to complement this with this. Let me go in and complement this with this other element that that I want to talk about here, and this is around responsibilities and roles. And here is another model, if you like, which is helpful when you're looking at the number of people in your team. Now, this can your teams on this innovation project are really quite small, but in other parts of your work life, you might have bigger teams. And this model from Belbin is quite good at thinking about what sort of people, what sort of doers do we need in a team. Again, it's not a matter of forcing you to describe in your project who is doing any of these roles, but it supports you in thinking of what sort of roles are there in a team. So let me show you. Let me show you this one. Belbin team roles. Okay, is that being shown now, Antti? Belbin team roles?
Yep.
It is. Okay, Belbin. Belbin is I think he's an ancient old man now, in his late 80s or even 90s. But Belbin was a management consultant in the 70s and 80s and beyond, 90s and even into the 21st century, who developed a sort of an approach to in the real management context. So he taught these as management training. He was a management trainer rather than an academic, if you like. And he produced this idea of how effective teams are made up of different team roles. His initial model had 8 roles, and then he added a little bit later this ninth role. And it's a good model in my view of thinking when you look at your team and you're starting to form your team, to look at this description and think about, well, who does what? What are the roles? And these are some sort of headings. You don't have to follow them, of course, exactly, but think about these ideas. The resource investigator through to the completer, finisher. I'll just open up this page, or I can actually I'll give you a little bit of an overview, and you can have a look at the web page for it. So the resource investigator first is the person who looks for the different resources that are needed and does this investigation. What do we need? And brings the sources back to the team. So they are a sort of this is what we need, and bring it. It's almost like going out hunting, looking what we need and bring it down. So you need somebody who's fairly outgoing to do this sort of tasks, these sorts of things. So it's a very basically the job is in the label here. Let's forget team worker for a moment and come to the coordinator. In Belbin's model, the coordinator is somebody who has the objectives clear in their head. So they're a little bit more blinkered and focused only on the objectives and tries to avoid the team sort of thinking too much sideways. It keeps the focus to stop the thing drifting too much to the right and to the left. So that's the coordinator's role, if you like. Somebody who's confident at keeping people on track and those sorts of things is one of the roles of the coordinator. The plant is it's a bit like the plant in the garden, sort of the flowering type plant. That's where the term comes from. This is the creative person. This is the person who thinks outside of the box and is creative. So you need this sort of problem-solving, unconventional approach to how we can do things. So if we have too many people in a team who are not so innovative or whatever, the results are rather sort of a bland replication of something that has been done in the past. The monitor evaluator is like a sort of audit type person. They are keeping things on track, and frequently they're rather sort of boring people. They just sort of like auditors can be, I suppose. You know, they're monitoring, evaluating. This was our objective, and keeping on track. Similar to the coordinator. Specialist is of course someone with specialist knowledge in their particular field. And if you have a project which is developing a widget type, it might be the specialist in the widget creation. It might be the technical genius in the group. So it's the in-depth specialization. What I would add here, though, is of course in this multidisciplinary project, people might have specialisms in different areas. One in app development or code writing, and others may come from other areas, such as the more softer management areas of marketing the idea or making it visible, or those sorts of things. So you will all have an element of specialism that you might bring into the project. Write down your tasks, task 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and assign a specialist to each one. Shaper, a little bit like coordinator and monitor and evaluator, a little bit like that. It's making sure that the thing moves forward, you know, that the focus isn't lost, that the project doesn't get bogged down in nothing. So they're shaping and moving forward. The implementer is making sure when that the whole project isn't just about ideas. It's turning ideas. It's from ideas into action, ideas into doing something concrete. And then the completer and the finisher is the person who makes sure that the thing finishes excuse me, on time. The implementer and the finisher can share some common goals. Coming back to the team worker, this is the person who is good at keeping a team together, good at interpersonal type skills. How do you keep the thing cohesive and working here? How can we all gel together and make things work? It's there are other models like this, and of team roles. There's multiple models. This one has got 9 roles in it, and you can find whether it's on the internet, whether it's in Wikipedia or in more academic type things, you'll find other models where there are 6 roles for the teams, or 8 roles, or 12 roles, or 4 roles, or something like that. It doesn't really matter. They have they share the same sort of logic. My suggestion is that it's quite good to think about using one of these roles type templates. Certainly use this one, and think about then go to this Belbin website and read a little bit more about what all of these roles entail, and carve up the roles between you. You might not need to cover them all, but who is going to be the person who does this or that or whatever? And by doing so, you move along. You're more likely to move from this sort of ideas element and forming the teams into some more concrete, real actions. And that's quite a stumbling element of a project, moving from talking to doing. And that's the notion of really having these roles so that you do move from talking into doing. So one particular model of team roles. There are many other models. They talk about having these different types of people. Frequently, they have different sorts of characteristics. They are either more sober and not very outward, but very organized, or they're very creative and just keep saying things, but don't actually put actions into place, and all these sort of different types of activities. Bring them all together, and you can harness their different skills and characteristics by offering them these different roles. As I said before, we don't expect you to sort of say, well, we've given out the roles and Bill is the coordinator and Mary is the shaper and whatever. This is just for some ideas for you to think about who's going to do what. So that's that roles, and that's about as much as I want to say on roles. I want to come to one last element now, and that is virtual teams. A little bit about virtual teams. And again, it's fairly generic. It's fairly generic stuff. So I've drawn on some readable type materials. I've put these 2 Harvard Business Review papers in the resources file. They're not like long academic research papers. Harvard Business Review is like a management magazine. It's sort of, and you can have a look at them if you want. These 2 are a little bit dated, 2013 and 2014, but they've still got the essence of it. So I picked those, and then this Forbes one, Forbes magazine, another management publication, is from June. The science behind managing virtual teams, which talks about virtual teams because of the way that businesses have had to move to this direction during the Corona period. So what do these papers say? Well, you don't have to go and read them all. So let's have a look at them. So three papers and different elements, and it's not so much of a surprise that some of this, or most of it, overlaps with what I've been saying for the last 40 minutes or so. So the science behind managing virtual teams, which is the 2020 Forbes article. Okay, so Mawson has done an evaluation and discussed with senior managers and CEOs and all sorts of things about how do we get virtual teams to work, and then got this this data and factored it into 5 factors or 5 themes, some sort of thematic analysis, if you like. And the first one then is social cohesion. So I've talked about that already. Okay, to make your team work, right, you have to have this cohesiveness. You have to work together to make sure that you've shared the roles out, and that you have a shared idea of where you want to go, and that you know each other. So be cohesive, not sort of or conflict or dissent or some. Now, when you get thrown together, as some of you might be, you have to go through the stages of getting to know each other. So the important issue here is social cohesion. Developing from that is trust. Do I trust that my team members are actually sharing stuff with me? So you need to have a policy or an agreement on how do you share information, how are you sharing your materials and whatever. In our sense, we put our Anthony and I, we put our materials into the teachers area of teams, and we share what we're doing, and then we talk about it. So we have a sort of a trust on what it is that is being produced for these sessions. We don't have surprises. Cohesive group, because we trust, and then the information is being shared. Perceived supervisory support then. So teams work in such a way that, of course, in business senses, is that although you might be in a team, you have a supervisor, and who may not be looking after everybody in the team. So does your supervisor support your working arrangements and the roles and things like that? I think linked to our thing, we'll give you a teacher leader, and you hopefully can trust that we will support you to your end there. Fourth one there, communication. Challenges in communication, having different agreed channels of communication. How are you communicating? When are you meeting? Being there on time, not making excuses, and delivering your materials, and all those sorts of things are found in Mawson's model in this particular 4th element. And then having a shared vision and clarity of goals. Well, we've talked about that already for the last hour or so. So not surprising that if you want your virtual team to work, you need these these elements. I chose the next paper because it's how do you get started. That's why, although it's a bit of an older paper, it's how do you start? How do you get a fast start? And we can see that these things are, again, perhaps common to Tuckman's storming and performing model. Okay, so what is your relationship action plan? So how do you have what is your plan to get to know each other? Is something. So how are you going to particularly if you aren't going to physically meet, which is of course a virtual team. It might be for some of you that that are in a team where actually even within the COVID frame, that you will get together and you'll have a chat. But that's, you know, you may well be working virtually for the whole of the project. It depends on your team makeup, I suppose, and your geography and those sorts of things. In all cases, you've got to stick to the COVID rules anyway. But what's your relationship action plan? How do you have a plan to build up this relationship? A kickoff event. What are you going to do to get your thing kick-started? And here, and what is your momentum plan? How are you going to keep it? How are you going to keep it? If you have those three elements, if you think about those, have them in front of you, those questions. How do you keep the momentum going? It's about perhaps agreeing your meeting schedules and the delivery of materials and all these sorts of things. Simple stuff, but if you have these templates or these ideas in front of you, you can get off to a faster start. You won't find in 3 weeks or 4 weeks' time, when you're having your first team meeting with your supervisor, that you said, well, we actually haven't done anything yet. Sadly, I'm sure I'll hear that from at least one group. History tells me. But you want to avoid that. And making virtual teams work, 10 basic principles. Well, it's the other ones pulled together and all the issues that we've talked about already, I think. You know, get the team together physically early on, if you possibly can. Well, I think that a physical sense could actually be videos on and meetings, so that you're in the same time space, so that you're in a synchronous time space. Sometimes that's challenging in international teams in the workplace, where somebody might be in India and somebody might be in China and somebody might be in California and somebody in Helsinki. But if you can get together physically, either real physically or sharing your screen early on and get things going, and then the other things are similar to what we've seen in Belbin, Tuckman, and these other elements. The last one on here, it's a bit unclear, and as you read the article, don't forget the one-on-ones. This is the same as perceived supervisory support. Don't forget that although you're in a team, you can have a one-on-one interaction if you need it. What is the support to you as an individual? You know, it's not for Antti and I to get stuck into your team conflicts and disappointments, but it is for us to try and support you both as a team and as an individual to meet your ends. So that's the element from there. And in terms of teams, that's about as much as I want to say. I'll open this up to questions. Is there anything in the chat?
No, nothing in the chat.
Okay. The slides will be, if they're not there now, they will be there when we shut down this.
Yep. I already uploaded it there.
Okay. So the final thing, and perhaps to close the day, and maybe Antti, that you can talk about, I can put the screen up.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next?
What happens next? Oh, yeah. So basically, yeah.
So if we have a look here, we have three rings. So you've done your assignment and submitted it. We've had a week to teaching and looking at project management, planning, reporting, and tools, and good practices in teamwork. And perhaps you can add the sort of review and reiterate what is got to happen for these people now.
So first of all, the about that first assignment, individual assignment, pitching a project video. I know that there are still some students working on their videos. That's fine. It just makes a little bit difficult for team forming, but I think we will survive for that one. And this time, I think we don't give any penalty for late returns, since I kind of forgot to tell you about the penalty. So basically what I have always in my course, the returns that if there is a strict deadline, then it means that after that deadline, each day you will lose 1 point. And the day, I mean actually a weekday. So in 2 weeks, if you had a potential 10 points, you will have potential 0 points after 2 weeks. So please be fast. But anyways, as I told you, no penalties this far, since you didn't know about the penalty points here. But now you do. Okay, you lost me for a while. Okay, so yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
I lost you for a while earlier. But
yeah, but anyways, I was talking about the penalty points on exercise 1. No penalties this far, and I know there's a couple of company videos which are still coming. So the most importantly, please upload the videos either on company projects or simulation projects on Teams. There is that section or a channel for the returns there. Okay, that was the first assignment. And basically the second assignment was posted already on Monday, and it's about the starting the kind of team forming, and it starts by watching at least 5 of these videos, randomly picked, and then basically rank your participation preference in scale 1 to 5. There is a forms on where you should actually put those your returns. There's something like was it 15 returns this far? But anyways, no hurry since there are still a couple of videos coming. And basically what we are going to do, use that information what we are gathering now, is that in case you cannot self-form your group, then I and James will take a look at those data, and basically we'll pick some most popular topics there and start helping you forming the groups. So the general plan is that next week, this time, all would have the group. All would have at least a preliminary group division there. I'm saying preliminary since I know that life happens. It has happened before and it will be happening again, that some of the students at the middle of the innovation project topic gets a better topic from industry, for example, then we need to adjust the groups in any ways. And but that's also happening also on the real life. If you are assigned on a project group and there is a higher priority group somewhere else, then you will be moved there. So that's just normal. Or if you just happen to get a better deal from another company, then you will move yourself there and you will be working on different projects. So this project will be preliminary, and well, the intention is that you will continue working normally on the groups until done. But also just warning that life has tendency of happen. Okay, but anyways, so the second exercise is posted. Shall I open it on my? Let me take a quick look. Visit assignment. Second assignment, student view. There and see. I will share my screen. There. So review the ideas. And it says watch at least 5 videos, pick them randomly, since we need all videos to have enough of viewers. Mark your ranking on this form. When you click that one, it should open up in a browser. Okay, except I already tested it and it's a single-use form. If you have trouble with that single-use, please send me mail. I will change the settings. But anyways, it should open up a form for you. It looks more or less like, how do I see that? There we go. Okay, group forms, idea, innovation ranking, there we go, and preview. It looks like this, and it's simple. You just most favorite video for up to the 5th most favorite video. We don't have the least favorite video, so that will be rude. Okay, but anyways, mark your preference here and just click enter. You need to log into the Microsoft Office with your organizational account, which is the Metropolia account. There was a problem, at least with the one student, that for some reason Google Chrome didn't open this one, but getting it, let's see, Mozilla actually opened it just fine. So that's a quick fix for that one. I have a backup plan in case you cannot fill the form. But anyways, let's use that form for time being. And let's see, yep, you can read the rest. Good. And let's see, I did see how many. Okay, and this far we have, 12 responses already. So the form works as long as you can actually access it. And that one requires that you are on Office, basically on Office 365, I think, logged into that system with your browser. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, about that ranking the videos. So if you, so you're supposed to rank the your 5 most favorite ones, but does that mean that you have to include your own project idea in those?
No,
or?
you don't have to. If you feel like the other project was better, then you basically can vote that one, of course. You don't need to include your own video. but the others may like it.
Okay.
If you want to put your rank your own project idea, you can put it in. Let's see how
Yes.
modern people
Yes.
are.
As you have noticed also, we have roughly 3 to 4 people groups. So it means in any case that only about a quarter of those ideas will be in use for this course. So we will see how the natural selection or democratic selection works in this case.
So how do you form those groups then according to the rules?
Okay,
You
can
do it in teams, right?
Yeah, yes, you can actually start discussing. There was already somebody asking. Okay, let's go to that introductory video and let me share my screen again. There we go. And hope that the internet is stable enough. Okay, there are already Joona Koljonen has started the discussion. Hi, we are looking for one ICT Smart student in our group, for example, or hi, my group includes Oskar Winter and Valtteri Kurrevi, also Smart System. Our project investigate is done for Wyzen. So basically they need at least one the industrial management student there. Since remember, these are multidisciplinary and there are already 3 ICT students. So it might be that me and James need to do some executive decisions on group forming.
I hope they don't run out of smart systems.
Yeah,
there's fewer
yes,
of us, I think.
exactly, and that's basically my and the James.
We'll take
moderate.
We'll take a pragmatic view. I mean, we've applied the rule that it has to be interdisciplinary. There may need to be some flexibility in that.
Yeah, if needed.
Larry, you throw in some some good points, different areas, and I think that the point is that if we were all in the classroom in the normal way, we could send you to all around each other and do your own forming of the groups in the classroom, the way that we do, right? You all get together and find partners and whatever. It's very challenging to do this in this remote setting. So we've had to try and balance a way of you being able to still form your own groups and your own preferences, but also trying to push this thing forward. It's a little bit difficult for us. We've tried to do it the best way that we can, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who are thinking that this is not working extremely well, but it's the best that we can do.
You think so? We were so good at group forming,
So I think by letting you self-form into groups, it's much better than us taking some projects and just putting you into any old project and people being particularly unhappy. So we're trying to get this to work in the best way, but I still understand that it's a bit of a challenge, to be honest.
Yep. And remember, we made the rules so we can also change them.
We can check. We'll be a bit pragmatic and we'll try and get this to work for everyone's benefit.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming to 12 o'clock, and some people will have either other classes or prearranged meetings and things. So
yeah, but aren't these people doing exactly the wrong thing according to the rules? They're asking for extra students to company projects instead of those simulated projects. So
No, well, that's also another one pragmatic thing. So if there is a company project which needs students, more students than just one, yes, definitely go for it. You should go for it. So in my perspective, this if we can help Finnish industry already, This way, then there's absolutely no losers on this game, but the only winners. So this will be win-win-win situation. And that's also the part of the flexibility.
Okay, so if there are further comments, feel free to send emails or anything like.
Or post them on the those chats.
We'll post them.
Yeah.
I think that we have to, in the interest of time management, draw things to a close.
Yep. Okay, thanks all. So James, shall we have a quick chat after
Yes.
everyone else leaves?
Yes, okay.
Okay, sure. So class dismissed.
Matti, can I talk to you a bit more? So I would like to talk a bit more about like Akseri, Oskari and me doing this thing for a company.
Okay, yeah. Shall we actually make an appointment for that one, since I need to leave in 10 minutes? So please send me email. I will send you some suggestions of time when we can talk.
All right.
Okay, good. Thanks. Okay, there are still some students there. I start kicking out them. I know it's rude, but okay. Students, would you leave the Zoom, please?